And then his son was out trying to tame one of the stallions, and he fell off and he broke his leg. And the whole town was like, what terrible luck. And the farmer says, we'll see. And the next thing you know, their country is going to war, and they started a draft. Well, his son couldn't be drafted because of his broken leg. And the whole town said, what good luck you have. And I think that's just a really powerful story when it comes to gratitude, and really like good and bad being so relative, because we can't always see the bigger picture. And so what we might think is bad today, we're going to have gratitude next week, next year, years from now, seeing that thing actually brought us so much closer. And it was like such a pivotal moment in a bigger picture that we just couldn't quite see yet.
Stay connected to gratitude. Hit the follow button right now and join thousands of listeners tuning in each week. We're the Gratitude Seekers. Come join us. Hi, Gratitude Seeker. Welcome to a new episode of the Gratitude Podcast. Our guest from today graduated with honors from nursing school and, after 7 years, realized it was not where she could make the most impact. She started 2 companies, a nutrition company and a company called Especially For You, which was dedicated to bringing fitness and nutrition to the special needs community, which led her to found Evolve Beyond Limits. She continued to draw on her in-depth understanding of the physical body, combining it with the power of connecting to the mental, emotional, and energetic bodies through intuitive tools and practices to offer a comprehensive approach to helping women reclaim their divine nature. She has dedicated her time to studying different modalities and healing techniques, including human design, Shamanism, Tantra, Ayurveda, and the Chakra system. She is a human design master and spiritual mentor, and her name is Stacy Gissal. Welcome, Stacy, to the Gratitude Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
My pleasure. So, firstly, I forgot to ask you beforehand if I'm pronouncing the name correctly. I hope I didn't mess it up too much.
Yeah, you did great, Stacy Gissal. Like, and the amount of different places, like, I don't know, it's I get all types of things, so I think you crushed it.
Okay, thank you. Like, at least here in Europe, like there are quite a few names in the US that have European origins, and I tend to just pick one of the countries and go for that, like French or German or something like that, and I try to pronounce it in that way. So
you did good.
All right, that's good. All right, so what I would love for us to speak about is the types from human design, the human design types, and I would love for us to explore what are some things that we can do as a generator, as a projector, as a manifester, as a reflector, to experience more gratitude. And in case our listeners don't know what we're talking about, they can go to your website to create a chart based on their date of birth, right, and place of birth, and find out what type they are in human design. But I'll let you talk a little bit more about this.
Yeah, I would love to. I'm so excited to talk about this topic and just kind of give this opportunity to your audience and be with them, because human design, I like to say, if you're not familiar with human design, like we were talking about, you can go to the website, you can pull up your chart. You just need your birth date, your birth time, and the city and state in which you were born. And it's going to, human design is it's a combination of ancient science, modern science, and all of these things kind of pulled together. And what I love about it is it provides you a chart of pretty much who you were born to be. So I say it's kind of like the cheat code into really having like a deep understanding of who you are. And so the thing that I love about human design is we can take all kinds of different personality tests and we take them and we're like, oh yeah, that sounds just like me. Well, of course it sounds just like you because you answered all the questions, right? Like, and some of that, like, I think anything that we can use to get a better understanding of ourselves and become more aware is really powerful. The thing that really drew me to human design is that you have this chart and the entire thing is who you were really like born to be. So it's going to show you everything that's lit up in your chart or is colored in is kind of like the things you are here to, that you're kind of here to teach the world. So it's the piece I call, like, a lot of them like your power traits. That's the things that you're radiating out to the world. So think about yourself like a radio signal, and you are pushing those things out to the world, and people can learn a lot from you in these things. And they're like the things that you're radiating 24/7. Like whether you realize it or not, you're doing it. But with those things, there's a duality to them, meaning that you can either be using them in like a really high vibration way where you're empowering yourself and you're empowering others. And it's like the most magnificent parts of this particular, design or whatever it is that you're looking at your chart. But you can also be using them for destruction. Like there's another side to it where if you don't have a deep understanding of yourself and like understanding of your human design, then you might have these traits, but you're kind of like radiating the destructive parts of the trait instead of the really empowering part of the trait. So that's one thing to understand about your human design. And then the other thing that I love about it is that if you look at your chart and there's always going to be white space. And the white space doesn't mean that it's not who you are. It means that it is it's actually very pliable, meaning that you get to kind of fill that space with whatever you want. And those are the things that we're learning from our outside world. So in that white space is where we tend to hold a lot of our stories, a lot of our limiting beliefs, a lot of the things that are actually holding us back, because our ego would rather fill that space with something, even if it doesn't serve us, than leave it empty. So it's kind of like, think about the white space in your chart, like a bucket that's empty, and you get to fill it with whatever you want. So if a story is no longer serving you, and, like in my clients, I really help them understand, like, what are the stories that we've filled this bucket with, and are they serving you? And if they're not, you get this opportunity to be like, that isn't working for me anymore. So I'm going to take that out and I'm going to replace it with something that's more empowering, that's going to help move me forward. So that's kind of the gist of human design, but it tells you, oh my gosh, we would be here until tomorrow, quite frankly, if we were trying to dive into all the different pieces of human design. So to start, we'll just start with the types. There's 5 types in human design, and each type is...
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. I'm sure many of you, my dear gratitude seekers, are givers. You give so much of yourself until you run dry at times. You too deserve to receive support, to matter, to be listened to, and to receive help when you need it. What I like most about therapy is that there's someone there to help you think about yourself for a change, about your needs, your desires, without feeling selfish. I know for myself that if I don't do this, I ultimately get resentful and frustrated, which hurts the relationships that I really care about. Give BetterHelp a try. It's online, it's flexible, and you get matched with a licensed therapist in no time. Find more balance with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/gratitude today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/gratitude.
Equally important. And so talking about gratitude, sometimes people will get a type and they'll be like, "Oh, I don't want that one."
Yeah.
But the truth is that every single type is such a hugely important, like you're a really important piece of the puzzle. And without all 5 types, we wouldn't, like, the world wouldn't be able to go round in the way that it does. So no matter what type you are, the first thing is to just have like complete gratitude for all of your gifts and all of the challenges that may come with that type. Because I think that's, I like to talk about perpetual gratitude is kind of this word that I like to use, which I think a lot of times when we think about gratitude, and I'd love to get your input on this, we think about, we think about all the things that are going quote unquote good.
Mhm. Yeah.
Right. And when we create gratitude lists, it's like all the things that have really that feel really good. And when I
Yeah.
think about perpetual gratitude, it's realizing that when we get to this point, that if we really have a lot of faith and trust in ourselves, in something bigger, in whatever's guiding us forward, then we realize that even the things that we might originally see as not good, in quotes, or negative, are actually things to be just as grateful for, because we have this innate trust that they're moving us in the direction that they're meant to move us.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
Yeah. So I always encourage people when they think about gratitude, it's like, can we think about not just the things that, because like we think of right and wrong or good and bad, like those are really just relative terms. There's this Chinese proverb, and you may have heard it, but I think it's really profound when it comes to gratitude. And it talks about how there's this farmer, and he lost all of his horses got out. And the whole town was like, "Oh my gosh, what terrible luck you have. Like, this is so terrible." And he says, "We'll see." And then his horses come back, and they come back with like a whole fleet of wild Mustangs. So by his horses leaving and coming back, he actually doubled his like fleet of horses. And the whole town was like, "Oh my gosh, what good luck. This is amazing." And he said, "We'll see." And then his son was out trying to tame one of the stallions, and he fell off and he broke his leg. And the whole town was like, "What terrible luck." And the farmer says, "We'll see." And the next thing you know, their country is going to war, and they started a draft. Well, his son couldn't be drafted because of his broken leg. And the whole town said, "What good luck you have." And the farmer said, "We'll see." And I think that's just a really powerful story when it comes to gratitude, and really like good and bad being so relative, because we can't always see the bigger picture. And so what we might think is bad today, we're going to have gratitude next week, next year, years from now, seeing that thing actually brought us, so much closer. And it was like such a pivotal moment in a bigger picture that we just couldn't quite see yet.
I love this perspective. And the funny thing is that I knew the story, but I didn't think about it this way.
Yeah, I think, I'm sure there's a lot of different lessons that we can learn from that story. But that's just the one that really rings true in my heart. Is it's so easy to judge a situation or a circumstance or an experience in the moment, but really like there's something so much bigger at play. And if we can sink into that, then we can really be just as grateful for the things that seemingly don't go our way as we are for the things that do.
Yeah, definitely. I really love this perspective, and it's so helpful, especially for those of us that might be in a pickle right now, might be in a situation that's hard from some points of view, and they just can't find a reason or something to feel grateful for, because they are in that particular situation. And I think this is a wonderful story that brings hope for people in this situation, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think there's an essence of that hope that's just so powerful to hold on to. And if there is one thing that I've experienced, and I promise we will get back to the human design stuff here soon, but if there's one thing that I have experienced in my own work and working with so many women and just different people, is that often the darkness, when we're sitting in it, we can't see clearly. We can't see clearly all the things that we're going through, but it's in that darkness that we learn the most lessons. And if we don't know darkness, we also won't know light. And something that I read recently said that grief is an indication of how hard you can, how hard you can love. And I think that that's such a beautiful thing, because if you're sitting in a place of darkness, remembering that without pain, we wouldn't know what pleasure is. If we didn't know dark, we wouldn't know light. And so you will get through it. There's always an other side to it. And whatever it is that you're working through right now, I don't know when, but I can promise you that at some point in this life, you will help somebody through this exact thing.
Wow. Yeah, I love it. It's such a fresh perspective, and it's so hopeful, because many of us, and I'm sure that many of our listeners, are these kinds of people that want to help other people, that want to be kind, and knowing that if they're going through something and they are able to help other people that are or will be going through something similar, just it makes so much sense, so much more sense to that they are going through this. It's wonderful perspective. Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Oh, you're so welcome. So I think this is a kind of, we can pull this back into human design a little bit, in the fact that there's a reason that you are going to fall into one of these types. And every type has like a unique purpose for being here on this planet. And if we can learn to tap into this and truly understand it, and understand that, in this work, what I really notice is that we're really good at seeing what we're not good at.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like, we are the ultimate at seeing our flaws, our weaknesses, the things we struggle with. But the thing that I love about human design, and when I begin to work with people in this realm, and it's part of this soul mastery method that I use, and the reason it's such a powerful tool is because it forces you to see how amazing you are. And I don't think we focus on that nearly enough.
I love that.
Yeah. And I think we go into, and sometimes, something I've been hearing lately is in the personal development space, is people are saying they need to take a break from it. Like, and I think this is a really interesting thing that's happening, because the reason I believe that people think they need a break from personal development is because they're starting to see all of the things that are quote unquote wrong with them.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're forgetting, or they're not spending an equal amount of time focusing and really strengthening the things that are so amazing about them. And so I hope that on this episode, and with this conversation with you and your listeners, that I can point out and help bring you back to seeing yourself for how great you are. Because like you were put, I believe that every single person on this planet is here for a reason. And if we're only looking at our shadows all the time, then you're forgetting that it's actually your light that is going to, that's what's going to help people.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So let's talk about human design. So, and the different types. Like I said, there's 5 different types, and I like to think about each type is like every single person on the planet is like a unique puzzle piece in this big puzzle. And we would never want 2 of the same puzzle piece, or else the puzzle doesn't work, right? So this is where it's really fun, because every single person is going to be unique. You're here to bring something unique. And the 5 different types is like the foundational piece of your human design. It is if you don't understand your type, then it's going to be like life is just going to be more difficult. And so we'll start with that, because that's a lot of information just in itself. So like we said, if you don't know your type yet, like take a pause, maybe go to the website, get your chart, and it's going to be the first thing that's listed. You're going to be either a generator, a manifesting generator, a projector, a manifester, or a reflector. And so is this where we should just kind of start going through the different types? And
yeah, so go to evolvebeyondlimits.com. I really want us to have this as a really interactive experience instead of just listening. I want you and the listener to find out, if you don't know the energy type, and to find out which energy type you are, so that what we'll be continuing talking about in this conversation to make the most sense for you. So go to evolvebeyondlimits.com, create your chart. I'm looking at my chart right now. And yeah, start from there. Of course, I have a lot of experience with astrology. My mother was and still is a huge fan of astrology, and she has created charts for me and for my brother and for the whole family since I was born, basically. And it's really a wonderful way of getting to know yourself better. And yeah, for me, this is the relation that so how it makes most sense for me, relating human design to astrology. We each have a personalized chart, and we each have an energy type. Like, I'm a Capricorn, but I'm also a generator in human design. But my whole chart is quite more complex than just being a generator or a Capricorn. And yeah, so getting back to the main topic, if you don't know your energy type, it's best that you find out, and you'll enjoy the rest of the interview much more, and you'll find it much more useful. So back to you.
no, this is perfect. I love that. And I also think that, one of the things that I'm really passionate about too is using human design as a way to connect more with the people around us. And so something you can also do, if you're up for it, is, and maybe you do this after you kind of learn about yourself, is then you start to bring in, if you have children, if you have a spouse, and if you have significant others, you can look up their charts too, because fun fact about human design is that it was actually, when it was channeled, the thought process behind it was that this would be used for parents to help their children. And that is really fun when you think about it, because if most of us are just going through and we're going to teach our kids what we know, we're going to teach the people around us just habitually, we're going to be like, this is how the world works for me, so this is how the world should work for you. And in reality, we're all so different. And so in human design, the thought was, if you could raise your kid, and everybody wants a blueprint for their child, right? Like, I think that's like an overarching thing. They're like, where's the manual? Okay, well, I have it. You actually have a manual. And if the more that you can learn about yourself, them, and then how they interact, which again, we could have a whole series on this if we wanted to. Then it's really fun, because now your kids are growing up and they're learning how to be themselves, who they were born to be. And instead of, in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, we have to go backwards and rewrite all of the stories that we've created. You would just be living more in alignment with who you actually are from the get-go, which I think is the goal. Like, just such a cool thing. So that's another invitation for you. But let's kind of dive into the different types and understanding some of the gifts and challenges and overarching purpose to each one. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that does. And before that, I just wanted to point out that what you just said made a lot of sense, because I am one of those children, that my mother was very interested in getting to know herself and also getting to know me as much as possible, and how to help me become the best version of myself. And she did that through astrology. But one of the most wonderful things related to this is that she, through this knowing of herself and of who I am, from a chart's perspective, that led her to better understand me and also accept some of the things that are quite different from the way she is as a human and the way she works. And I think this is so valuable. And for me as a child, it was so amazing feeling accepted and being encouraged to be myself. So yeah, I just wanted to add that, because I really have a personal experience with this.
Oh my gosh, I love hearing that. Thank you so much for sharing that, because I think it's actually somewhat rare, and it's becoming more and more common to see that. But these types of tools haven't, they're fairly new, and some of them, astrology is not new, like, and all of that stuff, but using them for this purpose, I would say, is really profound. And I love to hear how that made an impact on you. Because I think that, I work a lot with the chakra system as well. And we start around the age of like 8 to 10. We start to shift away from who we are, and we start to become who we think we need to be in order to be loved, to be accepted, to be, all of those things that we're desiring at that point. So then we actually start to drift away from who we really are. And we start to put on these masks or these personas. And then we solidify them over like the next, 12, 14 years. And if you didn't have to do that because you felt like you were like somebody truly understood who you were, and they encouraged you to keep being you rather than conform to, whatever rules or culture or whatever's going on around you, there's just so much power in that. Yeah. So I love that your mom was so ahead of the curve on all of that.
Yeah, definitely. I'm very grateful that that she chose this, and that she she was able to do this, and she is able to see things from a different perspective. I know it's not easy, but it's something that I've learned as well. Like it's knowing that um, there are people that are quite different, that work quite differently than I do, just helps me accept them instead of just wanting them to be just the way I am and how I work, and it just makes it much easier in general
I
in life.
yeah, I think that's such a huge life lesson. Like, and that's where, you know, with human design, one of my big things, because I've worked with like teams, I've worked with couples, families, all these different things. And like the ultimate goal is to see that like sometimes we think life would be easier if everyone just acted like we acted, right? Like
Yeah.
that's like it's like a natural thing to believe that. And what my invitation is, and something that I've had to learn, like believe me, I had that thought process in my life as well. And what I've come to realize through human design is like even between my husband and I, things that used to drive me insane because I couldn't understand why he would do something that way, I now see through the lens of this is a gift. And if I can, it's actually something that I can learn from him.
Yeah.
And what a beautiful thing to look around at our fellow human beings and say, just because somebody's different doesn't make them wrong. And actually, there could be something here that I could learn if I can open my heart to that and realize that we're not all meant to be the same. Like, how boring would it be if we were all the same?
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Well, okay. So, like you were saying, comparing kind of human design and astrology, like, yeah, the types that we're going to talk about today, consider this like the first peeling of the onion. It's like the first layer of the onion. So we go deeper and deeper and deeper into this system, but this is like the foundational piece of understanding your human design is to understand your type. So we mentioned the 5 types. Now we're going to go in a little bit deeper into the like why that type is here, what are some of the gifts and the challenges that come along with that type, and how to utilize this in human design. It's my philosophy on everything that I'm not here to teach you a bunch of things that are cool, even though I will do that. It's to help you live it, because
Yeah.
that's actually where change happens. Like if you just listen to this and don't try to implement any of it, you might as well not have listened to it. Like, so I want to give you some tips on kind of how to do that too. So the first type, we'll start with generators. So generators they make up about 35% of the population. And generators are like, they're the workhorses of the world, meaning that you are literally here to find work that fulfills you and share that with humanity.
Yay. I'm thinking this
Yay!
type.
Right? And what I love about so you said that you're a generator.
Yeah.
Generators are really collaborative. So they work best with other people. And it's fun that you are doing a podcast because one of the most famous generators is Oprah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And like something that you realize with Oprah is that Oprah never does anything alone. She's
Mm,
always interviewing somebody. She's always like it's always a collaboration with people,
yeah.
which is cool. So yeah, generators. And when I say to find fulfilling work, work can be so many different things. Work can be your job. It can also be if you are a stay-at-home parent, if you are if you volunteer and it's how are you spending your time, right? And so whatever that is, but it's a lot of times for generators, and we'll talk about manifesting generators soon, but um they always wonder why being fulfilled by their work is so important to them. And I'm giving you the answer because it's what you're here to do. You're here to be fulfilled by your work. And that actually is really striking, I believe, for a lot of people, because between generators and manifesting generators are also here to find fulfilling work, and they have a few other things, but they make up 70% of the population.
Mm.
And how many people, like percentage wise, do we think are truly fulfilled by the work they do?
Yeah. Good
Yeah.
question.
Good question. I actually don't know the answer. But what I would say is that it's not a majority. And so it's so important for a generator to love what they're doing or feel really fulfilled by what they're doing, because if you're spending most of your day doing something that drains you, that you don't love, then of course, when you get home, you're going to struggle to put energy into your relationships, into your health, into, all the other things that are important to you, because you've just drained all of it doing work that isn't lighting you up. So know that as a generator, you're here to find work that really fulfills you. And so, as far as gratitude goes, if you are in a position or in a job that you don't love at the moment, I always say you can't leave something until you learn to love it.
I love it.
Yeah. And so think about, you can work and choose to make a change. Like, I want to find something that is more fulfilling. And you look around and what can you be grateful for? And like I was talking about, even in the perpetual gratitude, is like, what is this job teaching you? And what is it teaching you that's really important to you that you might not be getting in this moment? And so that way, when you do find different work, you can make sure that it's in alignment with your core values and the way you want to be spending your time and so like, think about, what is the job that you do now? What do you love about it? Like, what gets you out of bed? What lights you up? What's exciting? And then also think about what drains you. And for most people, they're spending more time doing the things that drain them than the things that light them up.
Mm.
And so, go ahead.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. But I want to play the devil's advocate here and ask, okay, but don't we all want to be fulfilled work-wise? Like, what is the difference here for for generators compared to projectors or other types? Like, what's the subtlety of this?
Yes, no, that's a great question. So I think we all do want to be fulfilled by our work. It's like, we think about it as like, but for a generator and a manifesting generator, the difference is the work is not, it's oftentimes it's not just what they do, it's a part of who they are. Like, there's a really big purpose to it. And because a generator has sustainable energy, meaning that they're like the Energizer bunnies. If you love what you're doing from moment to moment, you have like so much energy throughout the day. You can just keep going and going and going and going. Where projectors, manifestors, and reflectors, for example, they're actually not meant to really work a 9-to-5 job, because they don't have sustainable energy. They can work in short spurts that are really potent, but then they need time away from other people. So like, for a generator, yes, they're kind of like, when you think about a team player, when you think about somebody that you want to collaborate with, generators are who you want on your team, because they are going to, as long as they're fulfilled by the work that they're doing and they are bought into your mission, they're using their gifts, they're just going to be able to keep going and like bring so much growth and evolution to your team. However, like, a manifester is meant to initiate action. And so they're not really meant to do the work. They're meant to kind of oversee the work. So do you see the difference there? Like,
Yeah.
So generators are kind of like, whatever you want to get done, you can hand it off to a generator and they're going to like run with it. So that's kind of, and we need people who are willing to just like take the work and do it. And we can't have, not every single person can be a leader, right, of the company, or else we'd be in trouble as that goes too. So generators are just really amazing team players. They're really good collaborators. And like, as long as they're loving what they're doing, they will help you fulfill like whatever bigger mission you are out to fulfill.
That makes perfect sense. And I'm guessing I might be biased since I'm a generator, and I'm like, but doesn't everyone work that way? Isn't everyone like that?
That's true, right? Because it's come so natural to you that, you know, I always say we oftentimes don't see our superpowers because we assume that everybody has them.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So because it's so natural to you, other people might be like, yeah, I'd rather not work, right? Like, or like whatever that looks like. But I'll tell you why that is. I believe that everybody is designed to work, but it's just in different capacities. So, yeah. So as far as a generator goes, you have specific there's a strategy that you use in life, meaning that if you follow this strategy, it will make your life easier. I promise. Like, because it's how you're meant to interact with life. And for a generator, it's to respond, which means you never have to go out searching for opportunities necessarily. Like, whatever opportunities, whatever is for you is going to come to you. This one is hard.
Sense.
Go ahead. What?
Yeah, that makes sense. I was thinking about situations. Yeah.
Yeah. And this one is actually, especially at least for us in America, this one is really hard for a lot of people to understand because we are taught that if you want something, you need to go out and get it. And the only way to get what you want is to initiate it. And actually, there's only 8% of the population that is meant to initiate action. And so for generators, that there's going to be a spark. I call it a spark that comes from something outside of you. So it could be a person saying, hey, do you want to join me in this opportunity? Do you want to do this? You might get an email from something saying like, do you want to join this, mastermind or go to this class? Or you might have had something pop up that says, do you want to listen to this podcast? And it's going to come to you through all these different things. You might see an ad on Instagram. And the trick here, though, is that in human design, whenever you're making decisions, you make them from your gut, never your head. So for a generator, you run off of your sacral motor, which is like, it's your gut saying, yes, go forward with that, or no, don't do that. And this is really important to understand because your head is like the ultimate liar. And the reason I say that is because it does one of two things. Your mind is either going to make things significantly bigger than they are, because that's what it does, or it's going to make decisions based on past experiences. So you might see something pop up and your mind is like, no, you can't do that because you've tried to do that in the past and it didn't work. And it's doing that because it's trying to keep you safe. However, if your gut says, but I really want to, your gut is making decisions based on what's best for you in this moment and what is going to take you to the next level. And so if you want safety, go ahead and go with your head. But if you want like whatever success looks like to you on this planet, then follow your gut forward, even if it doesn't make sense in your head.
I would say it makes perfect sense, but it's Yeah, I would be saying it from the mind, even though I know that it's yeah, and it has been my experience that whenever I listen to this gut feeling, it led me to the in the right places. So let's get to the other ones. I don't want us to talk too much about generators just because I'm
Yeah,
one.
for sure. So really quick before we go to the other ones, I'm just going to go really fast through the gifts of a generator is really that, like I said, that sustainable energy. And if you are living like a happy, fulfilled life, then opportunities are just going to be magnetized to you. You're very collaborative. Like I said, you're team players, and you're really designed for mastery. You want to master yourself and master whatever the craft is that you're doing. So whatever that work is for you, it's really important to kind of master that. So just know that you're a huge important piece of this puzzle. I love connecting with generators. So, and if you want to, when you go to the website, you're going to get an ebook that will actually kind of break these down, where you can see the gifts, you can see the challenges, and all of that. So, so manifesting generators, these are generators at heart, but they have this other side to them. And they also make up 35% of the population. So both types of generators make up about 70% of the population. And the difference between a manifesting generator and a generator is that they're still here to find work that fulfills them, but they're also very empowering to the people around them. So, one of the most famous manifesting generators is Martin Luther King Jr. And when you think about what he did, is he used his voice to create a movement in like-minded people. And that's really what manifesting generators are here to do. They're leaders. They tend to be really powerful leaders. And like I said, there's also a flip side. They can be very disempowering too, but you just have to know how to work with it. But knowing that manifesting generators are really here to use their voice to shift the world and the way that the world thinks about certain things, and bring people together and empower the people around them. So as far as their strategy goes, they're also meant to respond. So the opportunities will come to them, but they have a second, like manifesting generators tend to have a double dose of just about everything. So the other thing that they have to do is inform. So not only do they respond to what's going on around them, let's say somebody comes to them and says, "Hey, do you want to go on, this retreat in November?" And they're like, "Yes, I want to do that." Well, they also have to inform the people around them that are going to be impacted by that decision. And that might not seem like a hard thing to do, but for a manifesting generator, I know because I am one, it is difficult because they don't like to be told no, and they don't like to ask for permission to do things. So if I had to go to my husband and say, "Hey, I just wanted to let you, like, I'm going to go to this retreat in November," there's a chance that he's going to tell me no, and there's a chance that he's going to try to slow me down in some way. And therefore, it stops manifesting generators from telling people what they're going to do, which actually ends up causing way more harm than good. So just warning everybody out there. It's like, learn from my mistakes. It doesn't work, because the whole point of informing is actually so that people can help you. If you tell people what you want to do, then they're going to be able to help get you there. They're not going to try to stand in your way and tell you no. They actually will be able to kind of collaborate with you and make whatever it is that you're working on or that you want to do even better. And one of the challenges for manifesting generators is they move really, really quickly, which means that they can skip steps. They can be prone to skipping steps. So know that the more you bring people in, they might slow you down a little bit, but that's not always a bad thing. So have gratitude for the people in your life who are willing to ask questions. So, so manifesting generators, some of your gifts is that you are you appear to be a little bit superhuman from the outside in because you move so fast and you are so passionate and you have all like you can multitask, which no other type actually can. Like you can be multi-passionate and multitask. And so people look at you and they wonder how you're doing all the things you're doing. And you might not even think you're that busy. So know that that's a gift. You're very empowering. So just being in the room with a manifesting generator can sometimes give you enough energy to like do whatever it is that you didn't feel like you were empowered enough to do before. So that's really beautiful. And they're also like designed for mastery, and they have so much energy and they move really fast. They move really fast. So generators and manifesting generators, just so you guys know who I'm speaking to, for your physical health, it is so important that you find ways to move physically every single day because you have so much pent up energy within you. It needs a place to go.
Yeah, I know.
So
Sometimes hard to sleep if I don't consume all of it.
yes, and it will be like super hard to sleep. So I love that you brought that up. So all of these things like impact every body, mental, emotional, physical, and energetic. So we're always kind of looking at it from that point of view. So manifestors, I love them. I'm actually like surrounded by manifestors. They make up 8% of the population. So they're actually pretty, they're pretty rare and unique. But a manifestor is a leader at heart. They are here to initiate action, to start things, and to keep things moving forward. Manifestors have really, really powerful energy. And here's the thing, because of that, if you are a manifestor, there's one of two things that will happen. People who are really secure with themselves are going to be very drawn to you. You're going to be very empowering and very delightful to them. However, if a manifestor encounters somebody who has a lot of insecurities within themselves, more than likely, this is like an energetic thing, they're probably not going to like you. And that's really hard as a manifestor to have people who like energetically just don't really like them. And the thing is, they don't really even know why. And so if you're a manifestor, it's really important for you to understand that your energy is so powerful that there are going to be people who struggle with that energy, and you don't have to dim your light just because it makes some other people uncomfortable.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And so manifestors, sometimes they can be the ones that you really have to see the gratitude in how powerful you are because there's a whole nother side of it that can feel a little deflating, and you're like, well, I'm just being me. Why does this person not like me? And like, that's just not up to you. You have to choose to not see it that way. And so for a manifestor, they just have to inform. So when they decide to do something, again, they just need to tell the people who are going to be involved with it what they're going to do so that those people can come in and help them. And think about a manifestor as like, hey, we're going to do this project. And then they hand it off to the generators and manifesting generators of the world, and they go and make it happen. So that's like the power of a manifestor, is they kind of start it, but they don't need to finish it. They can actually hand it off to the other types to finish the work that they start. So your gifts as a manifestor is that you're very powerful, super influential. You don't have to wait for things to come to you. You can just initiate action on anything you want to do, like anything that gives you that spark of like, I'm curious as to what that would be. They also are very free-spirited, very independent, and they tend to be kind of mysterious because that's just like, it's part of who they are, which is fun. And they're very driven people, so they tend to be very successful as well. So those are like the really quick lowdown on manifestors. Projectors make up 21% of the population, and projectors are here to be the wise guides of the world. So they are a different type of leader than a manifestor, but they're like think about projectors as like the next generation of leaders where they lead through guidance, not force. And projectors are really fascinating because they see everything from a bird's eye view. Like everything they see it from a really high perspective, which is what their gift is. And so if you have a projector in your life, like they need to be recognized, first of all. So recognize them for their gifts and ask them for guidance because they have got wisdom beyond what you can even imagine. They are such wise souls if they are asked for their opinion. So that's like the really interesting thing about a projector is that a projector could be the wisest person in the world. And if you don't ask them for their advice and they try to give it to you, you're not going to hear them, even if they're right. And it's just the way that they interact. So projectors are beautiful, beautiful beings, and they are very observant of everyone and everything around them. So since they were kids, they were more focused on what was going on outside of them than what was going on within them. So know that about if you are a projector, know that you probably spend more time focusing on others than you do yourself. And so learning to kind of harmonize and find a balance in that, there's a lot of beauty to it. And it can get you into trouble because you can forget that you're important too.
That makes perfect sense. And I wanted to get to something else. I didn't want to interrupt you. My girlfriend is a projector, and the funny thing is that I went at some point into a collaboration as generators do, and I was so certain that it's a good one and things are going to work out great. And she didn't feel that it was the right thing to do, and she said that I don't think this guy is the best person to collaborate with. And after a few years, I found out that she was right, and actually it was a mistake on my side to go for that and to get myself involved with that person. So it works.
Yeah, it fits perfect. Like if my sister is actually a projector, and if you have a projector in your life, they are very, very intuitive, and they're really good at guiding others, and like I said, they have a lot of wisdom. So the only thing is, if you're interacting with a projector or you are a projector, you need to be invited or recognized for your contribution. So if somebody doesn't ask you for your opinion and you try to give it, they're not going to hear you. And so that's one of the most difficult things for projectors is it's like they're sitting on this gold mine of wisdom. And unless somebody asks them for it, they can't give it out. And so if you are a projector or you have projectors in your life, ask for their wisdom because they have so much to share, but they really can't do it unless they're asked for it. So just know that about being a projector. And I love that story because they are so intuitive. It's so fun.
Yep.
Okay. So lastly, but not least, is the reflector. So reflectors make up only 1% of the population. I have a theory on this. Their reflectors are literally here to reflect their environment back to the people around them, meaning that they're like the ultimate mirror. So if you're in the presence of a reflector and they are happy, then you know that the environment that you're in is healthy. If you see a reflector and they're unhappy, then their environment is actually unhealthy. And so I think the more and more reflectors I meet are actually kids. And so I think that there's more and more of them coming into the world because we're finally willing to do this work, to be self-aware. Before, it would have been really hard to walk around as a mirror because nobody wanted to see themselves, right? So I'll be curious to see what happens over the upcoming years and if that percentage starts to go up. So but yeah, reflectors are really amazing. They tend to be very talkative. They're very passionate about life. They have this innate way of seeing the potential in others, which can oftentimes lead them to being disappointed in people because like they know what you're capable of and yet you're not living up to it. So that's kind of an interesting thing. They're also very connected to nature and they're very connected to like environmental or humanitarian efforts because they see the world as it should be, which is like they see the oneness. And so any separation of the world is really destructive to a reflector. Like they just don't understand how certain people can live a certain way and other people can live another way. Like my niece is actually a reflector and we used to live in downtown Detroit and we took her to a baseball game. And the way that seeing the homeless people was just, she could not for the life of her understand how some people can live, like a life where they have plenty of money and all the things and they've got a home and they're safe and they're cared for. And then other people are living on the street. Like that is so difficult for a reflector because they see the world for the beauty that it could be. And so just know that about reflectors too, if you have one in your life or you are one. And they have a really interesting strategy. They actually have to wait a full moon cycle to make decisions, which is like a 29-day thing. So they really struggle to make decisions. So if you know a reflector, in our world where we don't really tolerate people taking a long period of time to make decisions, and they actually need that. So it's just something that's really important to know. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit of a breakdown on the different types. And like I said, if you download the ebook, you're going to see that there's also challenges to every single type. And we've talked about gratitude a little bit in this conversation together. And I think just being able to see the gratitude in both and also seeing the gratitude in the different types and the people that are closest to you and being able to see what you might think are their differences for what they really are, which is like opportunities to learn and be curious. And they're like what you may see as a struggle for them is actually one of their gifts, and just being able to see, how that all kind of comes together.
Yeah, I think it's knowing ourselves better and understanding ourselves better and how we work and how other people work is something that can be very helpful in appreciating ourselves for who we are and what we are, for the gifts that we have, the superpowers that we might not even be aware of, but also appreciate other people in their own uniqueness, in their own way of being that is quite different from ours. And but that doesn't mean that it's any less wonderful. And I think this is a powerful lesson that at least I'm getting from these energy types, and that I'm working on myself in my own relationships to appreciate, even though not all of all of the people around me are generators, to appreciate those qualities, even if they are different than the things that I consider normal, that I consider as something that everyone should have or anyone should be. And yeah, I love that.
Yeah, it's very, very powerful. Like I said, to just really see the gifts in everybody. And, as coaches, as leaders, as mentors, as different things, it's just so important to understand that we're not all the same, and that what works for us might not necessarily work for the next person. And I think the more, like, this is such a powerful system to be able to incorporate into your coaching, into whatever you're doing, so that you can help really have an in-depth understanding of who somebody is and guide them to be the best version of them, not the best version of you.
Yeah, I love that. It's really hard to do in many situations, and I'm sure that it's not easy in different kinds of relationships with spouses, with children. And yeah, I have great appreciation for my mom that she was able to appreciate and accept me, even though I'm quite different from her and from compared to how she is. And yeah, it has inspired me to try to do that as well with the people in my life, and to appreciate them as they are, not as I might think that they should be one way or another. So yeah, I think this is wonderful, and it's very powerful, because we will be interacting with other humans all of our life, and they are going to be different. And if we are able to appreciate these differences, we are going to have a different kind of experience, and it's going to be much better and much easier for them as well. So there's another thing that I'm curious about, if you want to expand a little bit on, is what are the four elements of Mother Earth, and how we can reconnect with them.
Mm, yes. Okay. This is so good. So, the four elements of Mother Earth, and this is, so I have a system that I have created to kind of take people down a path of soul mastery. And so when I say soul mastery, sometimes people are like, well, what the heck is that? And through my own personal journey, I've realized that most people are kind of searching for a few things. Whether you realize it or not, is they're searching for freedom, is one. Two is to be at peace with themselves, or to cultivate some sort of inner peace. And three is like this liberation to show up in the world as their most authentic self. So that is what I am devoted to helping people through with this system. It does include human design, but it's a lot of different ancient wisdom and modern sciences. And one of those, like the foundational piece, is nature. Is one of the first things that we learn how to understand and walk through. And yes, it's our connection to other, like Mother Earth, and it's also our connection to like who we are and how we experience life in our physical body. So when we think about Mother Earth, we have four different elements. And so there is earth, there's water, there's fire, and there's air. And these all can teach us so many things. And the way that I work with these four elements is, in this soul mastery method, it's correlated to the chakra system, which are like the energy centers within our body. And the first one is our root, and that's our connection to earth. It's our connection to the earth element, because it's what offers us stability and safety, and it's like our core foundation. And something that I always say, if you want to know how somebody truly feels about themselves, look at how they treat the earth. because we have this responsibility to Mother Earth. It's our only thing that we have to live on. And we treat it oftentimes as something that's not that important. And so this earth element is what allows us to feel safe. It allows us to feel stable. It allows us to create a foundation that everything else can build on. Right? So if you were a tree, we would need the soil and the earth to be able to plant our seed, grow roots, and then allow us to grow as human beings on this planet. So that's like the earth element. Then we move into the water element is connected to our sacral, or it's connected to our emotions. So our emotions are kind of like the tide in the ocean. They come, they come and they go, and they come and they go. And we go through the whole spectrum of emotion. And the water is the beautiful essence of flowing. So while earth is very sturdy and very hardy and very foundational, water flows. If it's in a container, it's going to fit to whatever container it's in. So it's like earth is strategy and structure, while water is flow and surrender. And we need both of those things in our life. And so we allow ourselves to, water's a very cleansing energy too. So if you're ever feeling like you're in a funk or anything, like jumping in water or taking a shower or anything that kind of gets you, taking a bath can be a really powerful way to kind of cleanse your energy. So that's like water. And then we have fire. So fire is associated with our solar plexus, and fire is the element of transformation. So and it's associated with action. So if we don't take action, we can't expect something to change. So you could sit there and pray about it all day long, but if you aren't willing to take action to shift it, then it's not going to shift. And so fire, I always say, there's if anybody's familiar with the essence of the phoenix rises from the ashes to be born again. And to kind of what people don't necessarily realize about the phoenix is that the phoenix, when it's ready, it makes a choice to set its nest on fire. So it actually sets its own nest on fire. And I think that that's the way we need to look at life and our transformation and our evolution, is that there's not always going to be something that comes along and sets your nest on fire so that you have to change. You get to make that choice every single day. What piece of me needs to burn and transform so that I can rise in my consciousness, so I can rise in all of these things? And so the fire is like that. It's that action piece. It's that transformation piece. It's really where transformation happens. And then there's air, and air is connected to our heart, and it's all pervading, right? And our heart is the essence of unconditional love. So kind of in a lot of the things that we've been talking about today is, how do we love ourselves unconditionally? So we don't love ourselves only if we do this, this, and this, or we got everything done on our to-do list, or we're acting a certain way. We love ourselves always. And only when we do that can we then start to give that same unconditional love to the people around us. We can only love others to the extent at which we love ourselves. And so air is like that pervading, like air's everywhere. It reaches every single nook and cranny. It goes everywhere. It's our own life force through our breath. And so when you think about that, love, and unconditional love, is the power to heal all. There is nothing in this planet and beyond that cannot be healed by the power of love. And so yeah, that's just kind of like an overview of the 4 elements and how profound they are in like our healing and expansion journey.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And um, it's so interesting how it works and how we can apply this to our life, and how we can use the different elements in different situations. Like you mentioned with the water, I've seen this in my own experience, that it's really helpful to in different kinds of situations just to take a shower, and it changes the way we feel, the way we think about certain things that are going on in our life. And yeah, it's fascinating how that works.
Yeah, and I just want to like put this out there. Do not actually set yourself on fire. So that's not how we use the fire element. But something that I actually have people do, and it's another nature connector, is the moon is like such a powerful connection to our feminine essence and like into just nature in general. And so the full moon is a really powerful time to reflect and kind of see what needs to be released in my life. Like what habits, thoughts, actions are getting in the way of me like living my best life, living the life that I want to live. Who do I need to forgive? What is some anger or other emotions that I need to release? And then you can like write all these things down. And you can actually do like a full moon ceremony where you actually do take these things and you write them down and then you burn them. And you can burn them outside on your grills. Sometimes I've done it in a pot. Like you can burn them wherever you want to do, but it's that fire and that symbolism of kind of like catching these things on fire and asking for that transformation. And the smoke that rises is kind of like you're releasing it back to Mother Earth. And she has the ability to hold so much more than we do. And she's happy to take it for us if we're willing to give it. So that's a way that you can kind of use that fire element.
I love it. I have done this myself, and it's very liberating. And yeah, I believe that every once in a while, it's important for us to do some kind of exercise of this sort, because we do tend to hang on to so many things that keep us from being grateful. So yeah, thank you so much for everything that you shared today, for all of the knowledge and all of the wonderful thoughts that you shared with us.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm truly so grateful and so blessed to be here and just be able to share this space with your community.
My pleasure. My pleasure. And let our audience know how they can get in touch with you, where they can find you.
Yeah, you can. I will, if you go onto the website and you put in your chart and you kind of sign up for the newsletter. I do send out like one newsletter a month. I'm not, I don't send out a ton of stuff in that capacity, but I would say that even heading over to Instagram, and we can probably link this in the show notes, but it's Stacy, Stacy _Gissal, Gissal. I'm active on Instagram probably for the most part. And you can ask any questions or just anything that, you kind of took away or you're curious about. I'm happy to interact there too.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful. Thank you so much once again. And yeah, we'll keep in touch. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Gratitude Seeker, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this interview. I really appreciate it. And if you could think of one person that would also benefit from it, share it with them. It might actually be the inspiration that they need to make their day or maybe even their life much better. Thank you so much once again. This has been Georgian Benta. Don't forget to keep seeking and spreading gratitude.